Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
All business. We're a couple of business guys.
We're businessmen. We
Hey,
do
everyone.
business.
That's our business voice. This is our business
This is the
voice.
voices we use when we're making business deals.
My name is David Bell,
My name is Tom Ryman.
and we just watched Strange Brew.
Stronga Brew.
It's Canadians.
Strangabrow.
Canadians.
It's Canadian.
At last, television's Dave Thomas and Rick Moranis have just hit the great white screen. These are the adventures of Bob and Doug McKenzie. Strange Brew.
Yeah, okay, so we have some business. Because
There's
of
some
business.
business.
Big thank you to Steven. Steven, thank you for having us watch Strange Brew.
Indeed.
The
1983.
1983. That's almost the 70s, Tom.
I know. Yeah.
It's,
It might as well be the 70s.
Yeah, it's Ricky Moranis and David Thomas.
Ricardo Moranis.
Yeah.
Richard Moranis.
Richard Moranis.
No, it's a movie. It's a couple of characters they did, Bob and Doug McKenzie, that they did on SCTV, which is a bit of a precursor to like Wayne's World and Beavis and Butthead, that kind of vibe.
Yeah. Interesting is I'm reading that the SCTV, like the executive producer, said that he would sue them for making this movie, and the movie had to be written to be different enough from the SCTV characters, which doesn't seem like it was.
No, they start and end. The film is bookended by them sitting on the what is it called? The Great White North set.
Right. So this is on Wikipedia from an interview with Dave Thomas. I wonder if it's one of those things, because behind the scenes trivia is famous for this, in my opinion, which is taking jokes that like actors said and then making it like trivia.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it's more like that. If it's like he said a joke in an interview and some nerd was like, I guess I better put that in as a actual fact.
Oh yeah, no,
I don't
this
know.
current the internet has murdered subtext.
Yes.
So it's either just completely at face value is the only way we can interpret anything.
Mm-hmm. I had never seen this movie. I have no background really with these characters in SCTV. I remember them being in commercials.
Yeah.
And I never really... I mean, I love these actors. It's Dave Thomas and Rick Moranis. So, you know.
And I'm pretty sure Rick Moranis' last film was voicing a moose in Brother Bear. Is that right?
Sure.
I think that's right. I'll have to double check that, but like... Anyway, the point is that he and Dave Thomas play the two moose, and they're playing them as Bob and Doug McKenzie, and I think that was his last role in a movie.
Yeah, I would say this is before our time, but Tom, you already told me you watched this as a kid a lot, right?
I did, yeah. I mean, it was before my time. I was born in 1983, so
right. But that is our time. Like I watched, I grew up watching Ghostbusters and so on.
Yeah. I watched this movie a lot when I was a kid because both my dad and my stepdad were really into this film. So yeah, I'd seen it a bunch, but I had not watched it probably in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I was interested to go back and see how it held up. And, it's very dated.
Well,
but I still think the movie is charming.
It's dated, but not in a way where it like says it's not racist.
No, it's not dated
or
like
it's
that.
not offensive in any way.
No.
It's more like I didn't laugh much watching it, which isn't to say it isn't a good movie. You know, does that make sense? Like,
yeah, it's the jokes. I think the style of comedy we're so used to now because, like I mentioned, it's kind of a precursor to Wayne's World and Beavis and Butthead, and even to a less
and
Dumb and Dumber for sure. To a lesser degree, It's Always Sunny. Like Rick Moranis in particular is very Charlie Day in this movie.
Yeah, that's really what it was. Watching this is that it's watching it. I was like, oh, this is the inspiration for a lot. This is the seeds. Like I would argue, Dana Carvey is sort of just ripping off Rick Moranis in Wayne's World.
Yeah, 100% he is.
Yeah.
He is doing a Rick Moranis voice.
Yeah, he's just doing Rick Moranis in this.
Yeah.
I would also say Wolf Cop. Wolf Cop with the Canadian hockey stuff, the evil beer company.
Yeah.
Dumb and Dumber, I say the roots are almost firmly planted in the idea of two dummies infiltrating something, like thwarting plans through it's coincidence.
It's very like the Dumb and Dumber, the Beavis and Butthead movie, and a lot of similar type comedies. It's two buffoons wandering into a different movie is basically what it is.
Yeah,
like there's a whole other movie, going
these
on.
These guys are masterminds, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's what this movie is. They stumble into a completely different movie about Hamlet as reinterpreted by a brewing company.
Yes,
it's Elsinore Brewery. The owner of Elsinore Brewery was murdered by his brother and the evil brewmeister, who's played by Max von Sydow.
Max von Sydow doing doing
the Lord's work, honestly.
Yeah.
Like the scene where he grabs the dude by the head, he's like, I could crush your head like a nut.
Yeah.
But I won't, because I need you. So good. We are introduced to
a
Max
whole fucking hockey team at one point.
Yeah, he beats the fucking Christ out of an entire hockey team dressed like stormtroopers. We're introduced to him as he's peeing in a secret bathroom behind a war map.
Yeah.
He's just killing it in this movie.
Yeah. He's doing it. He's doing his job. He's doing his job.
So yeah, like the movie is about this lady who is inheriting Elsinore Brewery because her father died, and then we learn that her father was murdered by her uncle, who then married her mom, and her uncle is also named Claude. It's all very Hamlet. But then the evil brewmaster Max von Sydow has this plan where he's going to load beer with this secret chemical that will mind control people if he plays certain tunes on a synthesizer.
Right.
And he's also a doctor at a neighboring mental hospital, and he's using the patients there as guinea pigs to test out his mind-controlling beer. And
right.
Bob and Doug McKenzie stumble into this because it opens with them screening a much shittier movie that was supposed to be their movie. And so they have to flee. They drink all their beer. They don't have any money left to get any more beer because their movie was a disaster. So they go into the Elsinore Brewery to try to scam a free case of beer by putting a mouse in a beer bottle, and then instead they get put to work, and they stumble upon this conspiracy, and hilarity ensues.
Which I learned, the mouse in the beer bottle made it hard for them to find a brewery willing to partner with them about this movie. Like, they were going to film in a real brewery, obviously.
Yeah.
And then there was a lot of, like, Molson wanted to do something with them. With like ads, but the mouse in the beer bottle was like an issue because these companies are so sensitive. Which is
funny because it's a scam, like it's explicitly a scam, and Dave Thomas even explains to the audience how to do the scam. He's like, well, you get a baby mouse and you stick it in the bottle and then raise it inside the bottle,
right?
All to get like scam. A free $15 case of beer.
Yeah, this is all about them just needing free beer,
trying to scam some free beer. Yeah,
yeah, their dad. They give someone their money back for the movie, and then they go home, and their dad's like, "You need to get beer tomorrow," and then they're like, "How do we get beer?" And they try this scam. They go to like the beer pharmacy, which I'm assuming is just a Canadian thing.
It's like a package store, yeah.
Yeah, but I've never seen a package store where you. You have to like go to a person at a desk and tell them what beer you want, and then the beer comes through a chute.
I've never seen it like
Canadian.
Yeah, it was like Breadline combined with a package store. Maybe I don't know if that was a joke for the movie or if that's what it was really like.
I don't know, man.
They
put their milk in bags.
Yeah, but I mean, either way, they go to it's a package store, so I don't know.
Yeah, we should mention this is directed by Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas.
Yeah.
Written by Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas. That was also, I was reading that they gave the script to someone else, and then they realized like they improv their characters on the show.
Yeah.
So it just didn't make sense for someone to write them. So they wrote, a lot of their stuff. Rick Moranis was hesitant about doing the movie apparently, which is weird too.
It sounds like Rick Moranis.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't seem to like being.
He doesn't really seem to enjoy being in movies too much.
Yeah, it's very funny. So they go to the brewery, which is like they make it all spooky, and that's when they jump into this other idea
of spookery, if you will.
Yeah, a spookery of this woman who is inheriting the brewery, and the evil uncle doesn't want her to have it, and tries to kill her. Does he try to kill her?
Yeah. They try to kill her and frame Bob and Doug for it.
Yeah, they have some dumb plans for it.
Yeah, it's all very stupid. It's
I mean, it's a comedy.
It's a comedy, yeah.
It's comedy logic. It's like we're going to put them in these kegs and then put them in. It's like very like Bugs Bunny, where it's like, just shoot them or something, but no. We're going to put them in these kegs and then have them fake deliver it and cut the brakes on the car so that I guess they crash.
Yeah,
so it looks like they drove them into the water.
Yeah, they do a pretty sick jump with that van too. It was dope. Yeah. This van gets fully airborne and flies into the water. It's great.
Yeah, but first it's them fun and games of them working at the brewery, doing like quality control. Because they give him a job for some reason. Oh, they give him a job because they think they're telling the truth about the mouse.
Yeah.
There's a haunted arcade machine. Was that in Hamlet? There's a haunted arcade machine.
Yeah, no, that's
Hamlet.
in Hamlet. That's how Hamlet figures out that his dad is dead. As he visits him in a haunted arcade machine.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, the movie is okay. So, how did you like this movie?
So, like I said, there's a couple parts that actually made me laugh. Mm-hmm. The first half I found like kind of boring, but it's really hard. It's like I have nothing but the most respect for this. Is how I would frame it, where it feels dated. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of impressive, and it makes me think of how it's the roots for a lot of other things. So like watching these two people do these characters so flawlessly was delightful, but most of it felt like it's almost like it's so early in this trope that they didn't really have to do much in terms of jokes, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like
no, totally.
Like a lot of stuff was so new that it was at its most basic form. Yeah, and therefore there's not much for jokes, because the joke is, look at these guys, they're dummies.
Yeah,
they have a funny voice. They're constantly fighting. The best moments, I think, are between them when they're like playing steamroller.
Yeah.
When they're electrocuting each other.
Yeah, and Rick Moranis is real bummed that his turn is gonna get skipped. They get stuck in an electroshock room and they're playing around with the device, and then for Rick Moranis' turn, he's tied the electrodes to his head.
Yeah.
And then they leave before he gets to turn it on. He's real depressed about it.
Yeah. Stuff like the meta aspect was that's something we've just seen a million times now, but I'm sure it was very fresh when they were doing this.
Yeah, I remember,
we're watching our own movie, all that.
Yeah, I remember thinking that part, the opening part in particular, was very funny as a kid, where they're showing their terrible movie.
Right.
And before the movie starts, they're giving you more scam tips. Like, well, if you want to get your money back in a movie, you release a jar of moths, because they'll fly up to the projector screen and block the screen, so you can go to the front of the theater and demand your money back. So they're in the theater watching their terrible movie, and the audience starts to riot. So like he releases the jar of moss.
Yeah, I really like the jar of moss because that's weird for today's standards. Like, I like that it has like a logic to it. Like, oh yeah, they're attracted to light.
Yeah.
So you release the moss, they go in the projector. But what a weird thing to do in a movie theater. What a completely odd idea. That was a delight.
Yeah,
it's a lot of that too, where like a lot of the jokes are. I was like, oh, like I really like this idea. It's just not. It's not getting me because again, it's whatever. It's the fact that I've watched so much comedy and this is all. But like the ideas in it are like, oh, this is very good.
Yeah.
I did laugh at when they are underwater. And the cops dive down and they act like they're being pulled over.
Like they're being pulled over.
Was very funny.
That was good.
I liked the guy saying, "It's the press, I'll handle it," and he just starts beating them up.
Their lawyer just whips out karate moves on the press. Yeah. And then one of the other reporters is also karate master.
Yeah. That was great. Like there are definitely jokes in this that push through.
The one that really got me this time was when the cops go to their parents' house to look for them, and the dog throws them to disc and then rolls away into the shadows.
Yeah,
and it's like a really it's like a really obvious reverse shot of a stuffed dog. But
yeah.
But it was so fucking funny.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the Marx Brothers, where I'll watch an old Marx Brothers, and largely I'll say, oh, I know why this is significant. But it's not making me laugh, and then something will happen that I'll be like, okay, well, that's funny.
Yeah.
Where, like, there's certain things that's like, it doesn't matter what era it is, that's a funny idea, or it's something that I haven't seen, or maybe it's just, oh, the delivery is perfect, you know?
Yeah. I agree with that. Like, a lot of this movie is just so... I do agree that it's light on like traditional, I guess, jokes being written, because so much of the humor is just watching these two characters exist, and that was I think relatively new for the time. We've had so many derivative characters that have become hugely popular based on the same model since then. But yeah, I think the only
it's funny.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. It's just funny how you can really like the part where they're talking about not looking at the road. And they're you know, like how people don't look at the road in movies. Yeah, it's because they're towing it and they start doing it.
Yeah.
That's very Wayne's World before Wayne's World, you know, where they're talking about product placement and then they're doing it. Mm-hmm. And it's that where it's like, that didn't make me like laugh huge, but I was like, oh, this is like, and I'm sure there's versions of that joke before this, but it was just interesting to see an earlier version of something that I would argue is like that is kind of the better version, because it's quicker. It's a more efficient joke.
Yeah.
And it's done well in this. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, well, first of all, I don't know if it's better, but because I like both versions of the joke, because the Wayne's World one escalates.
Yeah, that's true.
So the joke is in the escalation rather than the observation. Mm-hmm. And then this is just the observation. But I was going to say, I think my main complaint, and I actually had this complaint as a little kid watching the movie, is that it's a little hard to follow. Like the actual plot and like the things that happen are a little jumbled. So the movie feels a little thrown together in a lot of places.
Well, what it is that ultimately it all makes sense. The problem is that like, and this is, it's a valid criticism, but it's not that valid, is like, for example, the villain's plan is dumb and makes no sense.
Yeah.
And like, that kind of matters, but not, like, the movie is kind of nihilist in the sense that a lot of comedies are, where it's absurdist. So like, for example, at the end, the villain is going to, I guess, release the beer at Oktoberfest. And their idea is, let's clear them out by painting the dog like a skunk, and then the dog starts flying through the air like Superman for some reason.
He just does. Yeah, it's the same where he rolls out of the way into the shadows after throwing them the disc. Yeah. Like, it just out of nowhere, the dog is just magic, and it's fine. I don't care.
Exactly, and there's this absurdist thing where they're just sort of throwing it away. and that's okay. It's a long-staying tradition. The folks at Broken Lizard love doing that. I fucking love the landfill joke in Beer Fest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like Beer Fest again, the drinking the beer by being trapped in it. That's something that happens in this. So I would say also Broken Lizard probably is heavily inspired, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. The meta stuff. But what I'm getting at is, I guess, because the villain's plans are often like kind of weird and vague, it made it hard to figure out what the hell was happening sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they the whole ordeal with the van and dumping them in the river, and then they shoot her with a dart, and I was like, does that dart just knock her out? And then she's like catatonic, but not.
I think she was pretending, but the movie never makes it super clear. She's suddenly in a romantic relationship with the hockey player Rosie, and that sort of comes out of nowhere. There's just a couple of threads.
Yeah, they set it up a little bit, and I do appreciate that they don't make either of the main characters the romantic interest.
Oh no, cool. They're each other's romantic interest. They even
exactly.
have a moment where they have to split up, and it's
Dave Thomas is fine with it, and Rick
Moranis is like weeping.
They've never been apart ever.
Has to be consoled. Yeah.
That was great. Yeah, and there's just a lot of that weird dream logic where where they like get a job at the brewery, and I'm like, why would they give them a job? Like they just sort of walked in.
Keep them quiet, I guess. Who knows?
Right, and it's like, okay, are they setting them up as patsies? It doesn't seem that way until then they do use them. The plan with the hockey players is like weird because they keep cutting to the hockey players. They have a scene where they play against the hockey players, and I'm like, I don't know why they're doing that.
No,
like
doesn't make any sense.
It's like a series of bits a lot of the time, and so it is like yada yada is a lot of stuff, I would say.
Yeah,
and there's like characters like the mother, who doesn't really matter.
No.
You know?
Yeah, no. She's only in 2 scenes.
Yeah.
One scene being where they're sitting at this long, luxurious dining table in their mansion eating Kentucky Fried Chicken on plates.
Yeah.
That, for some reason, that was deeply funny to me. And he makes a reference to it. Where he's like, we're the mom is, because they're talking to her about, she's upset that her mom married her uncle so quickly after her father died. And her mom is like, well, I think the problem is like, we're not upset at you for being sad that your father's gone, but it's time to move on. It's like, after all, people's memories live on. You can still cherish them. But like, the Colonel's been dead for years, and here we are enjoying his chicken.
that was a funny one. Yeah, that was good.
Just eating Kentucky Fried Chicken off of plates in this very fancy dining room.
Yeah, which is like, it's not against the rules to do that.
No, it's just,
but
it's not,
it's weird.
It's not like, I can't put a finger on why, it's hard to explain exactly why it's funny to me.
I think it's the juxtaposition.
Yeah, the juxtaposition of it. And the fact that they're not, it reminds me of the scene in Your Highness where the bad guy, I forget his name, but he's having like dinner with his 3 like sorceress advisors, and they're just eating a giant tray of fish sticks. Right,
because there's this like, again, there's this like nihilism to it where it's like, fuck it, they're eating KFC.
Who gives a shit? They're eating a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah, and it's not that it's fancy or that they're wealthy. I think it's just that it's like the sinisterness of the idea of the scene, where it's like, these are the evil people.
Yeah,
and they're just eating KFC, which again, like, why wouldn't they be? Of course why not? But it's just something about that.
Yeah, I think the specificity of it also gets me.
Yeah, and then the fact that they refer to it in the scene,
and then it never comes back. Like, Kentucky Fried Chicken is not like a recurring theme in the movie, which is another layer of why it's funny to me.
Right.
But yeah. We're just sitting here explaining why jokes are funny.
Well, it is like, there's something to something like that where it's not like the part where they get pulled over by the cops. There's like weird levels of it, of weird, like, of absurdity that's like, I don't quite I can't quite pin down why this is funny. It just kind of is.
Yeah,
I get that. And I think that's a lot of this, and that's maybe why it doesn't age, or it didn't age that well for me. Because a lot of the jokes, I don't know, like they're hard to identify.
Well, I think part of what it is it's, and we keep touching on it, but it's like, if not the earliest, it's an early iteration of a style of humor that has developed and, I'd argue been perfected in the past few decades that we're much more familiar with. So it's harder,
It's more than it's just cute.
Yeah,
like
it's really quaint. Is a lot like and cute. Yeah, I think that's the right word.
Yeah, like their opening film, it's like the joke is the film isn't well made.
Right.
It's look, things are on strings and he's using a tape measure instead of a walkie-talkie. And it's not really that's not really laugh out loud funny. It's just like, oh, that's cute. That's a cute idea. I think, I'm pouring the beer in the dog bowl and pouring it back in the glass.
Pouring it back in the glass for their dad. Yeah,
that's funny.
I think a lot of what endears this movie to me, certainly when I was a kid, and then like watching it now, like I still find it charming, is an aspect of these kinds of characters, like buffoonish idiots, really, or man children, that like Apatow or McKay sort of, I think, kind of does poorly, is that they're not really mean-spirited.
No, they're not.
And
I would argue, even like Dumb and Dumber makes them mean-spirited.
They're Jim Carrey much more so in that movie.
Yes,
but
he's sinister.
he's like, he's kind of a piece of shit. But like, I would even argue, like, for the most part, not even like Beavis and Butthead aren't really mean-spirited too often.
They're juvenile,
right? They're just kind of fools, like entertaining themselves with their own foolishness, and that's what this movie is for the most part. Like, they're not really they're not assholes.
Well, so what they do is, and this is another part of it, and this is a long tradition, is the pair who also have, and this is mostly done with stoner movies, but they have one motivation, and that's beer. Yeah. Like their whole world is around beer. So you can write everything based on that, which is that if there's beer, they're going to try to get the beer.
Yeah.
That's
that is their goal.
What it's going to be. That's their goal. If he's drowning in beer, well, guess what? He can drink the beer. I think that is, I don't know, like Cheech and Chong is probably around this time too, right?
A little bit earlier, but yeah.
Yeah. It's weird that like, you don't see that much with booze. Well, they're not even like into liquor. They just want beer.
Yeah.
And so there's something quaint about that. And then it's again that long tradition of like stoner comedies, which is that it makes them like rather innocent, even though they're I guess alcoholics. But it's because it's just that they just want one thing, and it's not hurting anybody but themselves. And they just want to get that. Yeah. And so they don't like when they bring in that lady, I was like, oh no, fuck. Because like I was a little exhausted by the potential of like, okay, is it going to be that case of like this beautiful woman who for some reason is into these dipshits? And they don't do that. They bring in Rosie, the ex-hockey player, who is a weird character.
He's a bizarre. I've always felt, even as a kid watching this movie, that character always confounded me.
I do think he's a trope. He's the straight man ally.
Yeah.
Meaning like he's the guy who kind of is there to mop up the things that the protagonists are too dumb to do.
Yeah.
And in this case, we get a romantic subplot with him, which is fine.
It's fine. It's whatever.
Yeah, and it's not unearned, I would say, nor is it that earned. It's just that he's a fine-looking guy, he's a nice guy, and so it's like at the end when they're together, I'm like, yeah, I see no reason why they shouldn't get together. Mm-hmm. He didn't do anything wrong, he seems nice enough. Even when he's like brainwashed or whatever, he's not an asshole. So it works. It's just, it is a very awkward character. Yeah. There's a few of that. There's the other detective. And I think these characters are in place so that the main characters never have to worry about solving their own problem.
Yeah, a lot of these characters are created out of necessity for a specific scene.
Yeah,
yeah. So I think
of someone who has to be like, they are innocent. Actually, it's this guy who's bad.
Some character needs to know what to do to advance the plot because Bob and Doug cannot.
I would argue this movie does waste a lot of, like, it's inefficient in that regard.
Yes.
For example, I don't know how much I needed the ghost. Like, there's a ghost in this. I love the ghost effects. It's very Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's the it's that idea, the electricity type of look for ghosts. It comes out of an outlet. He fucks with an arcade machine. I guess the implication that so they strangle him and then they set it up to make it look like he was electrocuted. Is the implication that he went into the electrical grid?
Yeah.
Okay.
His ghost is haunting the electrical grid of this brewery.
Sure.
Yeah.
And ultimately it feels like you don't really need him. You can have other people figure things out, you know?
Sure, but they wanted a ghost, so there's a ghost in it. I don't know.
Yeah, and ultimately it doesn't really matter.
No, it was just the way that the heroine learns that her father was murdered is her father's ghost talks to her.
Right, but she also watches the security tapes. So,
right,
like,
which
it
the
does
ghost
feel
shows
redundant.
them. The ghost shows them the security tapes.
Yeah. It feels like they could have had it, like, you know, her just go into the evil lair and see the security gate.
Yeah, there's like 3 hockey scenes. You know, it's not a terribly efficient film, even though it's like barely 90 minutes, and it has a brief intermission gag.
It does have a brief intermission gag.
And a prologue that has nothing to do with the rest of the film.
Yes.
It's barely a movie.
It's barely a movie, but also, like, I wouldn't want it to be 2 hours.
No, hell no. Yeah.
But it is very meandering.
Yeah,
it is very, like, series of bits.
It's very thrown together. It's
for sure.
Which is, it makes it a little slow of a watch, to be honest, but it's still so charming for me. I'm still very much into this movie.
It's tough. Like, I'm not going to find myself watching this movie much. It's the kind of movie where, like, I can see people being like, I'm not really into it.
Oh, for sure.
And I can see people being like, I love it. What's hard is to imagine someone being like, I fucking hate it, because it's not really hurting anybody, and it is. It really does feel like the conception of a lot of tropes that we love over the years.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't know. It's not hurting anyone. I don't think.
Which is, it sounds like a weird backhanded compliment to give a movie, but, like, for a 40-year-old comedy, that's kind of saying something, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not. It's not malicious in any way towards any group of people. It's just two buffoons having a good time.
Yeah, I guess I am surprised I didn't find it more funny, because this is an era where I do quite like a lot of the comedy, and it doesn't come from the joke so much as it is the performances.
The performances, yeah.
Yeah, I think about a movie like Stripes. I love Stripes. I don't think there's any joke in that. That's that particularly funny. I also think that movie probably is aged a lot worse.
Stripes is a tough watch.
Yeah, but there's some performances in that I'm just like, ooh, perfect. Like, it's just, I can watch that anytime just because of that. And I guess this bit of, like, the Canadians that say, I think this is another part of it, is that the bit they're doing is very not fresh anymore, right? The saying hosers and being this Canadian stereotype that's into hockey and beer, like, that is now just a very old comedy stereotype.
Yeah, although I am forever grateful for learning the term knob to call people.
Oh yeah,
that's good. Great insult to sling somebody's calling somebody in. So when he's doing the Star Wars, when he's doing the Darth Vader voice, Dave Thomas in the hockey gear, and he's like, "Luke, use the Force, you knob."
Yeah, Oh, that's great. They also
So dumb.
Damn it.
So dumb.
What is the phrasing? They have phrasing that's like the equivalent of saying "quit it" to somebody.
Oh, take off.
Take off. Yeah, those are great. That's the thing is it's a stereotype, but they're doing it. This is the best version of it. It's the most effortless version of that stereotype, kind of like Wayne's World, where it's like this is the brain dead Gen Xer, and we're doing not only the best version of it, but the most like oddly pure version too.
It's I would make that argument about Wayne's. Wayne's World's a little more abrasive, but you could make a similar observation where they're mostly kind of innocent characters. Like they're not really hurting anybody.
Right, and they even less so than this. They don't deal with stuff like drugs and stuff. They have a weird like when they have the character who's just like partied out. Like,
oh, right, yeah.
Like stuff like that where it's like they don't really address the idea of drinking or doing drugs. And this obviously they're drinking beer a lot, but they're never really like drunk.
They're never drunk. Yeah, it's interesting. Nobody's ever drunk in this movie, I don't think. They constantly talk about drinking and driving, though. Like one of them's going to drive because the other one's drunk. But I guess the idea is they're either never drunk or always drunk, and I guess they're always drunk. I think they're just always drunk, yeah. And it's the gag Dave Thomas specifically says is you can't drink and drive at the same time.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's really has to do with the fact that this is just dated, and not in a necessarily a bad way.
No, it's just like it doesn't have any real quotable. I mean, there's quotable moments, but there's no like gag you can really pull out of this movie and be like, that's a classic all-time gag. It's more like a constant simmer. Like you mentioned
a simmer.
Them doing their characters as being effortless, and that's what really sticks out to me on this watch is that, knowing that I don't know what percentage, but most of what they're doing is improv. That's the kind of the foundation of these characters. And it's so every scene between them is so organic and so effortless, and there's never really a lull in their banter. They're constantly talking.
And this was
really
definitely
good.
So improv during this time, because we also talked about Stripes and to some extent Ghostbusters, although there's only some improv in that. And this was a time where I think improv was done in a way that was so much better than what because improv today is like we're shoving it in your face.
Well, I think,
and we're gonna keep doing like line after. We're gonna keep just saying the same variation of a joke over and over again.
Right.
Whereas it was more like small, subtle lines. The improv line that always speaks to me from this era is Harold Ramis and Ghostbusters with "that would have worked if you hadn't stopped me." Yeah, and it's like that's not like a huge joke. It's just a great punctuation.
Well, I think the focus is different because like today with the Apatow McKay style of improv, it's trying to beat a joke. It's trying to one up the line. So it's really just people going back and forth shooting a joke and trying to one up the previous joke. And the focus around this era was more about remaining in character.
Yes, and there are lines that you're like, I'm honestly not sure if that was in the script or not, because they don't stand out necessarily as being like improv lines. They just fit in the movie,
right?
In a nice way,
and it fits with the character. So I think that's part of, for me anyway, what makes this period of improv style comedy more palatable is that the focus is more about staying in maintaining the character, whereas modern improv is more about trying to top each other for the biggest laugh. So it ends up being every character is the same. We're all just trying to say the most ridiculous thing we can to get the biggest laugh, and to me that's bad improv.
Yeah, I've seen there's some it has its moments, but largely less impressed by it. Calling this a simmer was a good way of putting it. It's weird because I don't want to let it too much off the hook for being old, because there's also movies like I still find Monty Python and the Holy Grail to be funny, to have moments that are genuinely funny by today's standards, to be ahead of its time. So I do think it's definitely dated. in that it's not timeless.
No.
It's just not.
No, it's not.
Yeah. And you could call that a flaw, although again, it's like fucking. What do you want from them?
Yeah, and you brought up the Marx Brothers earlier, and like the Marx Brothers, I think
that'll still make me laugh.
Is timeless. Like you can sit there and like if you listen to, just watching like a Harpo gag or like listening to one of Groucho's like rapid fire jokes, it's like, oh, that's still pretty fucking funny.
Right, whereas I would say the Three Stooges, not so much.
Yeah, I'm not big on the Stooges.
Yeah, it's weird. I think absurdist stuff when it's at its most absurd, like Monty Python, can be timeless. Mm-hmm. I also think slapstick can be timeless to an extent.
It depends, but yeah,
like I think that's why stuff like Mel Brooks can hold up. Or David Zucker, although that stuff can get awfully dated at times.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But like the physical humor can still very much work. This is like, since it's not really going for like physical humor or like puns as much as like we're just doing characters that we find funny, the characters themselves have become such like tropes that I think that makes it ultimately not hold up as well.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But again, everybody's doing so good. Like I'm never not amazed when I see Rick Moranis in anything.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah,
he's always great.
Yeah, and of course Max von Sydow he's just man.
He's so game.
Yeah, he's so game. He's like, it's weird seeing him remotely young.
Yeah, even though he was always like 60. I think he was just like forever 60.
Yeah.
Like even in the Virgin Spring, he's like fucking 60.
Yeah. And he's not doing anything really for laughs in this, although
he's playing it straight, but he knows how to fit into this tone.
Yeah, he knows what movie he's in.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
It's just so funny that they got him. Although, again, it's that sort of thing where I think of him as like a really prestigious star, but it's like, is he though? Like, or is he just an actor? I think he was also in like the 2010 Robin Hood,
Judge Dredd. Like, I mean, he just
does stuff.
He's just a fucking actor who worked for 70 years, I think. He's in everything.
Thing. When an actor looks old and has a certain accent, we just assume that they just do only top-notch stuff. When in reality, they'll be in Minority Report.
Sure.
You know?
I mean, Minority Report's a good movie, but...
It is a good movie. It's a bad example. They'll be in The Force Awakens.
There you go. Better example.
Yeah.
But
they'll
also
Flash Gordon.
Still a huge Star Wars movie, so, you know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of anybody else to call out from... I mean... As you pointed, he's like a Ben Kingsley.
Yeah. Ben Kingsley is that when you first think about when the name flashes in your head, you just think like, oh, it's Ben Kingsley. He does nothing but classy stuff. And then you think a little harder and you're like, wait, no, he doesn't. Like, I feel like with enough money, I can get Ben Kingsley in something. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
He'll just do whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, he's another guy where he's just, he's been acting for like fucking forever, 6 decades now. So. He's got a wide body work. He's still a great actor. Max von Sydow obviously was a great actor.
Yeah, they're great actors.
But they're also just working actors. They'll just be in stuff.
Yeah, and he's only doing so much in this. He doesn't. Yeah. What were you going to say?
I was just trying to call out other people. Obviously, you pointed out to me this time that something I'd never actually noticed, weirdly, is that Dave Thomas and Rick Moranis play their own parents in this movie. Dave Thomas plays the dad and Rick Moranis plays the mom. But their dad's voice is done by Mel Blanc.
That's pretty great.
So as a kid, I always thought it was just Mel Blanc for that one scene where you briefly see him. But then obviously watching it this time, it is very clearly Dave Thomas in a mustache and Rick Moranis in a wig.
Yeah. Pretending to fuck.
Yep.
That was a delight. Yeah. I liked that.
Pam, the daughter that's going to take over the brewery, is Lynn Griffin, who, have you seen Black Christmas?
Yeah, it's been a while. She looked very familiar.
She's like the iconic image from Black. She's the lady on the poster. She's the one who gets suffocated by the bag.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So like that's her deal. And actually the guy who plays Rosie plays Gold Leader in Star Wars. So they
Really?
and they do the Star Wars bit with him on screen. So that was kind
You're
of
right.
funny. Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
That's very funny.
He's totally in the first Star Wars.
He also looked familiar, but he's that kind of familiar where he just looks like everybody.
He just looks like everybody
like-
in the 70s.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. He looks like everybody who's ever existed in the 70s.
Yeah.
He could be in any movie in the 70s. It really doesn't matter. I'm reading this. He was he's apparently in Hellboy as
Sure.
Sergeant Whitman.
Sure. Why wouldn't he be?
He's in Eyes Wide Shut.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Hey, he's in Judge Dredd.
He sure is.
1995 with Max von.
As one of the other judges.
Yeah.
With Max von
Good for him.
Sydow.
Good for him. Good for him.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
wonder if they
Is he
told
still-
Strange Brew stories on the set of Judge Dredd.
That would be amazing. I like to think Max von Sydow had heard, oh, you want to be in this adaptation of Hamlet? And he's like, sure.
Of course.
Yeah.
And he shows up.
By the
and
way,
says,
apparently the first draft was really faithful to Hamlet. And they were like, let's not go nuts here. Which is just silly to me. That the screenwriter was like, all right, you want Hamlet? I'll give you Hamlet. Fuck it. Yeah. Do I have any other thoughts on this movie? Tom, do you have any other thoughts on this movie?
No, again, this is a movie I watched a bunch as a kid, and I still think it's charming. Although I agree, it's pretty dated, and it's not going to bust your gut at any point.
Yeah. Weird subjective note is that I really like movies that take place around this climate and season, which is like the shitty, not quite winter look,
Yeah.
where everything like the trees are like twigs,
Right.
And
it's
something
like
about
it's like ass November.
yeah, Ass November. Thank you. Or I was
Or
actually
ass
thinking
January.
Yes, I was thinking it was Ass January, or Ass February.
Yeah.
And in like what seems like the northeast, it's Canada. Where in Canada is it? Is this
who
in
knows?
Toronto?
Who can flip
Yeah.
and say, man? Canada is a
It
vast
says it was shot in
wilderness.
Toronto and Ontario, it also British Columbia. So it was just everywhere, all over fucking Canada, and it's just something about that always makes me feel comfortable watching, and then also combined with the 80s and that nostalgia and that feeling of like old cars, old look. I don't know, something about that I always love. So I guess my overall thought in this movie is I enjoyed watching it. It has that like morphine like comfort to it in general, not just that setting, but like the comedy, the people. But yeah, I never really got a huge laugh out of me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with the movie. And in fact, if this movie didn't exist, I think a lot of other things wouldn't have existed. It sure feels that way, at least. So, good movie.
Yeah, I'm into it.
I'm into it. Yeah. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Steven.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your business.
Thank you.
That's our
For
business.
your
We're
business.
making deals.
Yeah, why not? Fuck it. Should we start our own like characters where we do that voice?
I mean, probably.
Yeah.
I don't think we have
That must be-
any other choice.
That's why I assume people like Rick Moranis and stuff are like, I don't know, man. Because, like, it's the same with, like, Bobcat Goldthwait or Gilbert Gottfried, whereas there must have been a point in their career where they're like, man, I wish I didn't, like, do this. Like, I wish I didn't pin myself as guy with this voice. Like, and I'm sure there's when you do a character like this, at a certain point, you're like, man, kind of sick of doing that.
Yeah.
Kind of wish I could do other things.
Yeah. I would love to move on from this.
Yeah, and I think Rick Moranis, a lot of his career is that, where they're like, look at you, you're a little guy. You're like a little funny guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I can do other things.
Yeah.
Like, nah, you're a little funny guy.
If you actually look at his career, though, he's played a lot of very different characters. He's had a, he got into a little bit of a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids rut, I think, where he played that type of character a few times. Well, actually, maybe not. Maybe it was just for that movie. Those movies, rather. But like,
all right.
Yeah, through the 80s, he had this. He's got Lewis Tully.
Streets of Fire.
He's got Streets of Fire, where he's playing a scumbag club owner. He's got My Blue Heaven, where he's playing the straight man FBI agent to Steve Martin's wacky mobster.
By the way, this is his first movie.
Sure.
Yeah, Strange Brew, then Streets of Fire, immediatly after.
Well, that's a
and
weird
then
combination.
Ghostbusters. Yeah, then Ghostbusters. I think Streets of Fire, he was like, look, I don't want to be, him as fucking Dark Helmet. God damn.
Darth Helmet, yeah.
God damn. He's okay. So he's slated to be in a movie soon called Shrunk. It's the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids remake or sequel. Apparently he's going to be in it according to IMDb.
Huh.
I don't know.
I don't know
if
about
that's true.
that.
Yeah.
We'll see.
He was in the Goldbergs as Dark Helmet. I guess he brought that character back, or they just used his voice for that.
They might have.
Maybe he was on the TV.
Yeah.
In 2007, he did a TV movie documentary called Bob and Doug McKenzie's 2-hour anniversary. So I guess they brought these guys back.
Yeah, why wouldn't they?
Yeah. And then, he's been doing a lot of bringing back old characters, I'm seeing. It's a lot of that right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he has had more of a diverse career that I guess I give him credit for. He also just seems like he's capable of a lot.
Yeah.
It just really does still feel like we want him to be like the little guy, little funny guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. What were we doing?
I think we're done. Yeah, you're going to tell him some stuff, Dave.
Oh, okay, right. We have a Patreon. Patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. Along with getting your own We Just Watched episodes. For $5 a month, you get access to a bunch of exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and Spiel Boys. Those last two we do with the folks at Small Beans. For $10 a month, you can watch movies with us every Friday night. What did we watch? We watched
Congo in the Net.
Congo in the Net, which is a very good, that's what we do.
Very good indicator of the kinds of movies we watch.
Yeah. And when this comes out, we will have watched something else on another Friday night.
Who can even say, man? Not even we know what it's going to be at this point.
No, it's chaos. It's pure chaos.
Pure chaos. We also have a store, gamefullyunemployed.com. Head over there, and you can find a link to our Teespring store, where we have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs you can get on T-shirts, stickers, posters, mugs, all kinds of things. So check that out.
Mm-hmm. Get it all up in our business.
Give us your business.
Yeah, this is our voices now.
Those characters are going to take off, Dave. They're going to take off.
Yeah.
We're
gonna get famous, rich and famous.
We're gonna get rich and famous. We're gonna make a movie, and then 30 years from now, we're gonna make we're gonna do a reunion special of the business guys.
Hey, you hear these business guys? Their joke is that they just don't really care much, and they do a half-ass voice. It's great.
It's the pinnacle of comedy.